space focuses on the Tenebrous system, a system of planets and objects revolving around the star Tenebrous. It is a stellar system ravaged by war and strife, where agreed fuel mining for precious gems ended in a conflict that laid waste to the intricate trade networks that ensure technological production. With no new parts to find, almost every single object built today, from weapon to spacecraft, is put together from discarded, salvaged, or stolen parts. Nothing is new. As if rebuilding the system after the war was not enough. There are reports from stargazing cosmologists that the universe has stopped expanding, and that it has instead begun collapsing at an accelerating rate. The news that civilization is at its end have created a sense of hopelessness and disorder. Many sectors of the system, former vassals have taken this chance to seize control from distant rulers. Nothing is new.
This is Death in Space. New release from Stockholm Cartel and Free League from Sweden. And it's like a used sci-fi role-playing game. It's inspired by movies like 2001, Firefly, Blade Runner, Titan After Earth. But reading through this, I get a very strong Outland vibe from it. A 1981 Sean Connery movie, which I think is actually pretty good. Give it a watch if you haven't watched it yet. And even before I got my hands on this book, finally, they released a whole music album that you can find on Spotify. I'll leave a link in the description below. It has very ambientic background music for playing a game such as this, and also this great opening track that I used to make the intro to this video. So about the system itself, about this rule book in particular. It's hardcover, neatly bound, but it doesn't really lie flat or anything. Got 2 bookmark ribbons, which is really handy. And no space, no pages are wasted here. This is the inside cover, and even here there are tables. Same on the outside cover, where you got a cheat sheet that has a summary of all of the rules. Very handy. And right here is one of my favorite tables in any sci-fi RPG. Food. Asteroid whiskey, 6 credits. Dry compressed food, experimental moonshine, fat and protein for making bulk food. A table such as this really sets the mood for the whole game. If you can describe what is for dinner when the characters arrive at any given station and they have only stock oil or or synthetic flour to make their bread, thermal stabilized soy and fakion. Yeah. 5-star cuisine, this is not. So already the whole equipment list sets the mood for the setting. This is useful background information. I won't repeat anything that has been said in the introduction. It's a kind of bleak setting, lots of cults, bandits, warlords, local rulers, and the characters somehow have to get by. Character creation is simple enough to make up your abilities, your 4 abilities: body, dexterity, savvy, and tech. You roll 2d4 and subtract the second roll from the first roll, giving you attributes ranging from -3 to +3, which, if you're used to rolling 3d6 for D&D, would be just the modifiers you get after the rolling. So this is a very efficient system to just getting these modifiers. Then you choose or roll for one of the origins, scavengers, spacers, and some more out there stuff. We've got tables for more character details to flesh out the character. Finally, give them very limited starting gear, personal trinkets, and the characters are good to go. But you're also creating a so-called hub, which is either a part of a space station that your characters live in, or it is a spacecraft your characters own and presumably live on. And you create either of these rules. And depending on your type of game, if you want to play a more city-oriented game, more of a cyberpunk game with corporate politics and crime and gang wars, then you go for a station and have most of your adventures set on that station. And space stations can be fairly huge in a sci-fi setting with population ranging in the millions. Heck, it could be several trillion people if you're going for a full Dyson sphere or halo ring around the star. But in this setting, space stations, even the biggest space stations, won't be super huge. We'll maybe have a population of 1 million. Or if you're going for a more Firefly vibe, space trucker vibe, then you go for a spacecraft and have wacky adventures in outer space. And the rules are pretty familiar to anyone who's played D&D. It's a roll 20 plus bonus rollover system against a set number, set difficulty. Very easy to use. One specialty are the void points. Void points can be used to gain advantage on an ability check or attack roll, or to activate a cosmic mutation. But if you have too many of these void points accumulated without spending them, or if you are using them too often, you can suffer void corruption. And you gain these void points by failing ability checks or attack rolls. So failure sets up future success and maybe some void corruption, some complications, and future cosmic mutations. So cosmic mutations can be something strange, something technological, biological, or void out there, psychic abilities that will usually make you look stranger, but give you a useful ability. And you can get more of them during the game, so what does not kill you makes you stranger. A huge part of the setting of the game is that nothing is new. Everything is repaired and scavenged and repurposed, so they have some rules for object condition, when do objects break, and how do you fix these objects. So huge part of the game will be to scavenge together the spare parts needed to get your spaceship going. Or maybe when the characters find a really cool laser rifle, the condition will be so bad they can't use it until they have repaired it. Got some rules for space travel. Usually space travel will be in sublight speed, and you will either just have to suffer through the whole travel time, which can be months within system, or incredibly millennia between galaxies. But this is more for completion sakes. Most travel will take place within the Tenebrous system. But there's also faster than light travel. They're using a bridging system, basically jump drives with huge ships that come in regular but sparse intervals and anchor at the outer system. So there will be lines of spacecraft hoping to hitch a ride on the huge bridging craft to go to different star systems. Combat rules will be very familiar to D&D player. Few combat options here. What I find interesting is that you can split the damage dice of your attacks between multiple targets. So if you have a huge fully out weapon or flamethrower or so on, there are no complicated rules to make area of effect or anything. You can just split your damage dice between a number of targets, which is a very workable solution, I think. This table here is strange. Death and healing. Nothing special. You heal a bit of hit points. You die when your hit points reach 0 and you fail your death saving throws. But then when you die, you can roll on this table and your true death will flash before your eyes. The death that you were destined to if you hadn't just died. This is a bit strange, I think. So I don't think I would be doing this, but it's a neat thing to be here and give the whole setting a bit of an eerie atmosphere. We've got some also very fast and very usable rules for space combat. We have some distances, detection, identification, firing, and boarding. The captain can steer the ship, the other characters can fire weapons or go and do the boarding. And if you're doing maneuvers, basically you're moving through these range categories. Once again, really quick and usable rules. Advancement is not done in levels, rather for the XP you get through your adventures. You can buy ability increases, you can buy increases to your hit points, and you can buy cosmic mutations. Here in the extras, the setting, the feel of the game is explained, and also let's call it the default setting, the Tenebrous system, which has been ravaged by a corporate war about certain gem mines. These gems are used for faster than light travel. It's not explained in detail what these gems are, just that they are very useful for advanced technology. And now there's not much left of the system. The largest city, the largest collection of humans, if you will, is not on any of the habitable planets, which is only one. One has been blown up during the war. So, no, it's on a space station, the Iron Ring, which is a huge, actually, collection of spacecraft and station parts cobbled together around a mining asteroid where supposedly gems still can be found. Got an overview of the different objects in the system. Got different factions. Some of them are cults that worship some strange entity and belief or the other. It's the end of the world, so you would be expecting cults. We also got a more detailed description of the Iron Ring, and this is the introductionary adventure that is within the core rulebook. You arrive either with your ship or with your station part on the Iron Ring, and there you have to navigate your way through the different factions, somehow scrounge together the needed credits and repair parts to get your hub going again. So we've got a number of descriptions of the area of this specific area of the station, as well as the most important factions and NPCs you can encounter, and like a setup situation where the characters will find themselves in. There's a conflict going on between the different factions, but that's it. It's just the setup, the NPCs, and the locations, and nothing more. Everything that happens in this adventure, you have to decide when you're gaming it. It depends on what you make your NPCs do. It depends on what the PCs will be doing. And that's basically how I prepare and run my adventure. Just locations, NPCs, setup, and then see where it leads me. So while I like that aspect, this special adventure here is a bit mundane for my taste and left me cold. But I also got 2 more leaflet-sized adventures that are much cooler, I think personally. Come to that later. Tables and tools. Always nice to have. I love my random table, but we also got some space monsters in here. And these obstacles and tables and encounters all are useful tools to make up your own adventures. Always love to have lots of random tables to make up stuff on my own. of course, all of the technology and equipment for hub use and personal character use. Everything you need to run the game. Either if you want to use the default setting, the Tenebrous system, or make up your own system to play in. My Kickstarter package also came with 2 adventures contained within these 2 leaflets. And these are once again locations, NPCs, factions, and setup, and nothing more. So these are how I prepare my adventures, and I love that aspect a lot. But I think these 2 adventures are more interesting. This begins with the player characters receiving a distress signal. My name is Aiko, I'm kidnapped. Grasshopper, please help. And if the players decide to help and go after this grasshopper, which is drifting in space without power, they will find out what actually happened. Then we've got this year Katali 11, which leads the player characters on a research station that is now run by a void-crazed cult, the so-called Angler Priests. And they are pitching different crews against each other so they can weaken and capture them and then feed them as sacrifices to their disparity engine. This is a wonderful setup. This is the kind of strange, out there horror adventure that I want to see for this system. I love these leaflet adventures. They are so compact and efficient. This bit of text is enough to run 1 or 2 gaming sessions. It's very efficient. Yeah, so Death in Space. I'd describe it as a NASA punk, or maybe a space race punk role-playing game. It's got this aesthetic of space technology that is very similar to what we are using today, but in this setting it is old, used, and repurposed. And the very world, the very universe around you is collapsing. I have never seen a sci-fi setting quite as this. We have seen old and used sci-fi setting like Star Wars, for example, or the Alien universe. But in combination with the familiar technology, this is quite new. This is quite unique, and I think you could call this NASA punk if you wanted to. One thing I personally would immediately change about this setting, I would get rid of artificial gravity. I think having no gravity or having primitive spin gravity is a very rewarding and atmospheric setting aspect for a believable sci-fi and space setting. Even if you have bridging technology, if you had like gravity plates on the floor, that would create a huge gravity field. If you want to have 1 g of gravity on the floor of your ship, you're creating a gravity field equivalent to Earth. Unless you have some Clark technology that makes it possible to contain this gravity field within the confines of your ship. But I have no idea how something like that could work at all. So I'm a huge fan of no gravity, just magnetic boots or like Velcro strips on the floor, and spin gravity. Just on a side note. I'm looking forward to run this myself. I think I will skip this first adventure. Maybe I'll run it as an introduction anyway, because it introduces the setting and the Iron Ring. But I am much more looking forward to run this. This is an awesome adventure, I think. So yeah, again, Death in Space. A unique, rules simple sci-fi RPG. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.